And good morning. My name is Ryan Belmore. I am the owner and publisher of WhatsUpNewp 1017 here on November 11th. Frank Prosnich joins me. And good morning, Frank.
Good morning, Ryan. How are you?
I'm doing good. And tell me a little bit about our guests today. And why don't you do a little introduction?
Sure. Well, Kara Baskin she is at the Boston Globe. Been writing about a number of issues over the years, and now she is putting out a weekly newsletter called "In the Family Way" and touching on a lot of issues that I think are critical to young parents, people of all ages, but lots of really interesting and important subject areas. One of my favorites is parents have never had more reason to drink. And or more reason not to. And so she touches on that. She's got a lot of thoughts on what we do 2 weeks from tomorrow is Thanksgiving. So lots of things to talk about, particularly during the time when this pandemic has really changed our lives. And many of these things I think will carry over afterwards. But should be a good discussion.
Excellent. And we will bring Kara on now. And let me do this here so we all fit.
Ah, there you are.
Good morning.
Hi.
Good morning, Kara.
Hello.
Maybe, Kara, if you want to just tell us a little bit about yourself and what led up to this newsletter.
Sure. So I've been working with the Boston Globe for probably more than 10 years now. I used to edit a women's lifestyle magazine for them years ago, and since have covered lifestyle and culture and parenting and families. And since COVID began, we were really thinking that this is a captive audience of people who need answers and who are more stressed than ever before and who are definitely looking for solutions, especially with kids home from school, maybe remote, maybe hybrid, dealing with safety and schooling and work-life balance. So it seemed like the right thing to do. So we launched the parenting newsletter in September.
How do you come up with the subjects and who do you talk to for the information?
So it's a combination. So I'm a parent of 2 young children myself. So a lot of it is personal experience. I'm living through this, and it's things that really I'd be curious to know and wish people would inform me about. And then I get a lot of reader input too, a lot of stuff on social media, people asking questions and wanting answers. So I get a lot of input from readers as well.
And Kara, before we carry on, how can people sign up to receive In the Family Way and updates from you?
Question. Thank you for asking. So if you go to bostonglobe.com, parenting newsletter, I'm actually going to just pull it up right now to make sure that the link is working. It should be, but just in case. But if you go to bostonglobe.com, you'll certainly see it. And then I think /parenting newsletter is where you'll find it.
So one of the subjects that really interests me, I'm not to say anything, but it says parents have never had more reason to drink.
That's true.
Or more reasons to avoid it.
That's also true.
So this has been a stressful time. So I would think that people who are on the verge of addiction, who are addicted, have a far more difficult time now than ever before.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I mean, people are more isolated than ever before. A lot of the social constructs that kept people busy and distracted and connected with the community are gone. If they're not, having to wake up early and commute into work every day, if they're not having to get their kids up and ready for school, a lot of those safeguards have melted away. And so it's really hard for people who might have been teetering on the brink. At the same time, though, a lot of people, I think, are rethinking their relationship with alcohol. And, as things wear on with the pandemic, maybe taking this opportunity to scale back and think about, what are some healthier ways to live as well. But it's a huge issue. Alcohol use has spiked. I think there's something like 47% among U.S. adults since the pandemic started. So it's true. Yeah.
There's got to be some residual impact on the kids. If a parent goes over, drinking takes over for the parent, it lessens their ability to parent.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think also it's not really the parents who I'm hearing from aren't necessarily identifying as people who have an alcohol use disorder. And that's what they call it. It's more people who might have one too many glasses of wine and wake up not feeling great in the morning, but they wouldn't consider themselves as somebody with a drinking problem, which is its own, comes with its own set of issues and stigmas and preconceived notions. But it's really parents who just maybe feel like they're not waking up feeling their best, but it's not necessarily like you're passed out at dinner time. It's just this kind of quiet, low grade dysfunction that a lot of people are feeling.
Karen, I want to take a quick turn because 2 weeks from tomorrow is Thanksgiving,
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
and a lot of people who are in a quandary about what to do. You
Yeah.
have your parents who are a little older. You have families. Do you get together? Do you not get together? Do
Right.
you connect through Zoom? How do you do this?
That is so hard. And so that is the subject of our article and newsletter on Thursday. And we're talking to a mental health professional and a top Boston ER physician about this. And I think one of the biggest things to do, especially this year, is for parents to feel confident in making their own decisions. And I think it's really hard for parents who are even, they're adults and they have their own kids, but yet like their parents are giving them a guilt trip or they feel, bad about not seeing them. And it's really sticking to your guns, sticking up for yourself around family and doing what you're comfortable with. And it's hard for people to find their voice in that way. So people are struggling with it, but very few things in parenting are life or death. But in this case, it really is, COVID really is that serious. So people have to do what they feel comfortable with and not be, bless you, afraid of using their voice. The other thing too is like, this is an opportunity, right, for families to create new traditions, maybe smaller things. A lot of people are feeling good that they don't have the usual stress of hosting a big gathering or going to a big gathering or sitting through, with their relatives. It's something that can just be easier and quieter, and that's okay. So we can make the best of it. Hopefully next year will be better.
Yeah, for sure. I heard turkeys in my backyard celebrating.
Right. Like you can do takeout, get a pizza. It's fine. This has been a weird year, so we can just keep it going with weird new traditions. It's okay.
And you have certainly with Black Friday, holiday shopping, Christmas, you're going to have to start turning out a newsletter per day. There are going to be so many issues
I know.
that are coming to parents' minds.
Well, that's why we started it. I mean, there are so many, COVID brings to the forefront so many issues that people have sort of thought about beneath the surface, but it's making things really apparent, in terms of drinking, in terms of friendships, in terms of protecting your health and safety, in terms of family relationships. It's like COVID has forced us to really think about that stuff. So we could, there's no shortage.
Yeah, it almost appears over the last few days, it seems there's been an explosion of people who are being tested positive for COVID.
Right.
I had gone through a period of time where I didn't know very many people, and then suddenly,
yeah,
at least 3 or 4 over the last couple of days. And
yeah, down in Rhode Island too. I know you guys are having a tough time.
Yeah. So it is
real, and the winter is going to be hard for sure. So there's lots to think about, especially, one thing that I try to talk about in the parenting newsletter is to protect your own mental health too, and ways to do that, and ways to keep safe, healthfully, of course, but mental health as well, not just physical.
One of the areas that you touch on, which I think is probably more prevalent than ever, is in a divorced family. How do you cope with that during a pandemic?
Especially right with the holidays coming up. And so one thing, I talked to several families who are co-parenting during a pandemic, and it's interesting to me that a lot of them said they were forced to actually become better parents or better co-parents with their former partner because they have to communicate a lot. Maybe they didn't have to necessarily before, but now they really do. And so one of the biggest things is like defining your priorities and letting the little things slide. Like if your kid is watching TV or on an iPad too much with their dad or with their mom, this is not going to scar them for life. It's really just about getting on the same page with the big picture things: mask wearing, hand washing, safety. Let the little things slide, be flexible, and, also plan as much as you can. I think that one big issue that's confronting all people, but also, parents especially, is being isolated and being alone. And if your kids are suddenly out of the house for part of the week because you have a shared custody agreement, that's really hard. So make sure to find things to fill your time, plan it ahead so you're not just like left alone and staring at 4 empty walls. That was another big tip as well. But I think also too, the final thing is if you can't get on the same page with your former partner, right? There might be a reason why you're no longer together. You don't get along. You don't agree. Come up with an objective metric for what your deal breakers are, right? Like if Rhode Island hits X number of cases or this town hits this number of cases, we're not playing sports anymore. Or, if so-and-so tests positive, you're not going to go to their house to play. You need to find something that's really objective and really science-based to get on the same page with, because you might not agree on the subjective details. And if you can't do that, go to your child's pediatrician and they can give you objective, neutral advice if you can't get on the same page yourself.
Do you hear from a lot of parents who are, particularly of younger children, who have a difficult time or are trying to find a way to be able to let them know what's going on and to tell them why they can't do certain things. That's got to be a huge struggle for parents.
Do you mean parents are finding it hard to tell their kids why they can't do certain things?
Yeah, or to make so much, not telling them, but to tell them in a way that the kids will understand.
Yeah, and I think that it's hard because you don't, kids are innocent and you don't want to make them scared or upset. But the other thing is kids are more resilient than we give them credit for. And if you're stressed or you're nervous or you're worried, they're going to pick up on it one way or another. So it's best to be straightforward and gear it toward the proper age level. But I think that in many ways, and what I'm hearing is kids are taking this much better than parents, right? Because like I have a 4-year-old, he doesn't know anything different. He grabs his mask on his way out of the house because that's just what we do. Whereas, adults, it's much harder to adjust. So give your kids some credit. I think that they actually will understand more thoughtfully and more resiliently than you might suspect.
Moving towards Thanksgiving, moving towards Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, the holidays. What's your best advice to parents on how to deal with it, and maybe to pave the way a little bit for a different kind of a holiday season?
If only I knew. I think one thing is, and I said this before, feel empowered to stick up for yourself and your family's health. Don't be intimidated by a family member who doesn't understand, or don't, take the pressure off of yourself and make it about a third party. If you're declining an invitation, this is really hard for a lot of people right now. Many people are doing this. We look forward to being with you next year. Express your sympathy, say that you wish you could be there, but really, like, you owe it to yourself and to your family to do what you feel comfortable with. And I think that in our society, maybe not so much anymore, but often, we bend to other people's wishes. We're afraid to come off as insulting or rude. We don't want to alienate anybody. And you don't have to, but you can be firm and you can be true to what you want to do yourself. I think that that's important. And, this is a chance to create new traditions and new things with your family. This isn't forever. This isn't like you're never going to see your family again. You're never going to have a normal Thanksgiving again. Knock on wood, there's a vaccine that could be promising. This isn't forever. This is one day, or this is one season. So it's temporary and maybe a chance to, do something new and relax a little bit. So you don't have to put such a premium on the holiday.
I think we tend to think that we're making these incredible sacrifices, and it's interesting. Today is Veterans Day, and you think back to the World War II era, and the sacrifices we're making today pale in comparison.
Right.
To what that generation.
Right, and in the scheme of things, this isn't forever, and it feels very, very traumatic now, and it certainly is. But this is hopefully next Thanksgiving, next holiday season, we're not going to be dealing with this. So make the most of it.
Yeah. So a question that's been difficult for me is, I'm wondering when this is all over and we don't have to wear masks.
Difficult for everybody.
Yeah. Well, but what would it be okay if I went in the bank with a mask on? Do you think that would work?
I think masks are okay right now.
They are. Other subjects, other things you're going to be addressing over the next few weeks that people need to be aware of?
Really good question. I mean, going into the holiday season and a sense of gratitude and generosity, and what generosity looks like this year, for sure. I think too, mental health when it gets colder and darker. We've been blessed in a way because, throughout much of COVID, we've been able to go outside. And soon, here in New England, I don't know what the weather, although it's like 75 degrees today, but that won't last forever. So mental health and being cooped up inside, and how to occupy your kids, and how to stay connected with the world, because loneliness is a real thing. Isolation is a real thing. So I think that that's going to be a big topic as well. We haven't soldiered through a winter with COVID yet.
The other thing that I think people need to think about is being a little bit charitable, because many of these nonprofits that we have relied upon to fill certain gaps in society, and in some places, they don't have their typical ways of going out and raising money, and they're going to rely specifically or particularly on people's generosity.
Yeah, and I just know our organization, Globe Santa, for sure, is getting, we get all of these really heartbreaking personal stories every year. And this year has hit a lot of families very, very hard, financially, emotionally, and otherwise. So it's so important.
Yeah, Kara, Ryan, you have any thoughts?
No, I was going to say that if people do go to bostonglobe.com, you'll see that Kara just doesn't write about parenting. She also writes about food, about getting salty, about more food. So you can find it all on there. Lots of food writing.
Yeah, food and parenting, yin and yang.
They go together, don't they?
I think they do. For me, a little too much, maybe.
Kara, any final thoughts? Anything that you want to leave people with?
Well, so bostonglobe.com parenting newsletter. I love to hear from people. So my Twitter is at KC Baskin, like Baskin Robbins. People always say, are you related to Carol Baskin from Tiger? What is it? Tiger King, Tiger Mama, Tiger, whatever.
Tiger King.
Tiger King. No, that's not me. So at KC Baskin or kara.baskinglobe.com. I get a lot of my ideas from reader feedback. So I'm happy to hear from people.
And while you're there, sign up for Dan McGowan's newsletter on Rhode Island. I have to give my friend Dan a shout out.
Rhode Island is a big area of coverage for us, for sure.
Yeah.
I just heard you guys changed your state name too. Is that true? Or is there a movement to do that?
We're changing it to Massachusetts.
There you go.
Oh wait, no, that's not right.
Actually, it was this morning in Dan's newsletter where they talked about how Rhode Island had the longest name.
Right. And now Massachusetts has that honor.
Now it's Massachusetts, Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
Right.
Yeah. I just wonder how much it's going to cost us to change that, to change all of those signs and everything to Rhode. This could be an expensive transition.
Smallest state with the longest name.
But Kara, I want to thank you, and just the stuff that you're dealing with, I think, is really important. You know, we talk about these big vision, these big things. This is about your home. It's about your kids, and it's about ways that perhaps you're going to learn from others, and you're going to learn from what you have. Any resources that you think parents can look to?
That's a good question. So one resource that I always recommend is, Mass General, Boston Children's Hospital. They have wonderful psychological resources for parents and for families and for kids. So they're a great place to start, actually. I'm sure that Rhode Island State website, mass.gov as well, they have some great resources. And then one thing that I really want to plug is ADAA. It's the Anxiety and Depression Association of America. And that has some great resources too for the anxiety that so many of us are dealing with right now. Some of us have never dealt, certainly not me. I've always had anxiety, but a lot of people have never dealt with anxiety before and they're not sure how to deal with it. So ADAA.org as well is a great resource for that.
Great. Well, Kara, thank you very much. Appreciate your being with us.
You bet.
Thank you, Kara. All right, Mr. Prosnitz, great conversation, great resources. If people want to sign up for the newsletter, I dropped it in the comments, whether you're watching on our Facebook or our website or YouTube, that you can sign up for Kara's newsletter in the parenting category right there.
These are in the trenches issues that are well worth reading and can help you through every day. And maybe you've been asking these questions, and here's an opportunity to get some answers.
Excellent. Well, great resources and great conversation, Mr. Prosnitz. It's been a little while.
Yeah, it has.
Taking a little break post politics election season. We haven't interviewed candidates in a while, but we are going to get our video series up and running here, really picking up steam again over the next couple of days, weeks, and months through the rest of the year at least.
We're going to be doing an author series of authors who live in Rhode Island or are somehow associated with Rhode Island, and we're going to kick that off next week. And we'll tell people we'll kick it off with Dr. Michael Fine, former executive director of the Department of Health in Rhode Island, who was always wanted to be a novelist, a short story writer, and that's what he's doing now. He has a novel out. He has several short stories, and is pretty talented. So we'll kick off next week with him, and we've got a number of other people who will do that as well. We're going to be in the coming weeks. I think the 19th, we'll be talking to the Israel's ambassador of blues. And I'm really curious how big the blues are in Israel. He lives in, I'm not sure whether it's Tel Aviv or Jerusalem, but I know he lives in Israel. So we're gonna be speaking with him as well. Lots of great stuff coming up.
That's it. And we continue to bring you content via video, audio, writing on the website, newsletters, social media. So be sure to follow what we're doing on WhatsUpNewp.com. Mr. Prosnitz, thanks for the conversation today. We will talk to you soon.
Thank you, Ryan.
Right. On behalf of Frank Prosnitz and myself, I want to thank Kara for joining us. Again, sign up for her newsletter. You can find it in the comments, or you can find it at bostonglobe.com, and just search for her name, Kara Baskin. That's going to do it for us today. We'll chat with you next time.